Hello, today is March 20th, 2013, and you are listening to I Think You Think, a podcast that puts a new spin on debate and discussion. I'm Justin, and on the other side of my computer screen is James.
Howdy, folks.
And we're your hosts, and we carry no credentials worth noting. I Think You Think is a podcast that focuses on what we, your hosts, think, but also what you think. Too many times we spend debates and discussions talking past one another and not enough time trying to learn and understand why someone thinks what they think. This is what makes I Think You Think different, because we are focused on why people think what they do and why we think the way that we do. James and I believe the forum of ideas should be open to everyone, and everyone should have the opportunity to challenge and be challenged by ideas. We are not here to pass judgment, but merely discuss ideas and topics. This podcast, first and foremost, is a conversation between us and hopefully you. Feel free to email us. You can follow us on Facebook for future podcasts and follow us on Tumblr for links relevant to this podcast and all of our previous podcasts. The links for each of these can be found in the underbar of this video. I Think You Think is produced by StolenArts Productions and is recorded live at Fisher International Studios. James, how are you doing?
Well, like last week when you were really tired, now I'm really tired. In fact, I almost slept through the supposed podcasting time again. But beyond that, I'm doing well. I'm kind of excited about our topic today. It's one we've been kind of talking about before and after our shows for a little while. And I'm excited to actually dive into it today. How about yourself? How are you doing? Back in America for a full week now?
It has been a full week. I'm still really missing the UK. I will continue to probably miss the UK for a while. But there are hopefully plans in place so that we can eventually go back there on another vacation sometime in the coming years. Or I know my wife wants to study there, so we are looking into that. But we need to find like an immigration lawyer that we can kind of talk to and figure out what we need to do. I'm also excited because, in no relation to the UK, but tomorrow I am finally going out to get Gears of War Judgment, which came out on Tuesday, which I had pre-ordered. And I've also put in my pre-order for the new Star Trek video game that comes out, I think, in May. But the one who's really excited about that is my wife.
Oh, yes. Is it based on the movie, or is it just another game?
No, it's based on the J.J. Abrams reimagined kind of universe, the alternate universe that he kind of created. But the major bad guy in it is the Gorn. I don't know if you know who the Gorn are. The Gorn were featured only in a single episode in the original series, where Kirk and the captain of a Gorn spaceship were transported down to a planet whose name escapes me at this moment and had to battle to the death.
I bet it was a desert planet.
Yeah, because that's all they really had.
It doesn't sound familiar to me, but it's been a while. I know I saw a lot of those old episodes, but it's been a while. Just yesterday, I pre-ordered BioShock Infinite, which feels like it's been coming out forever. I wanted to buy a Bluetooth controller for my new tablet so that I could play some of those cool old school emulators like the Super Nintendo emulator and things like that. And I just couldn't resist, so I bought it and a season pass because, pre-order stuff is awesome, as we've talked about before. Hopefully this time it's actually true. But that comes out on Tuesday, so we will both have games to chat about, but they will be different games. So that should be interesting for anyone who hasn't at that stage bought those games but is interested in hearing about them.
Well, I thought about getting BioShock Infinite. I was a pretty big BioShock fan, but I think I'll probably wait a few months because it's not one of those games that I have to have. Gears of War happened to be one of those games that I had to have on launch, but BioShock, I think I can wait a few months.
Yeah, I've actually never played a BioShock game, but I've heard nothing but good things. And everything I saw on some of the cons and whatever when they did some of the demos for the game that I've seen on TV just looks amazing. So yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. Like I said, heard nothing but good things. So hopefully I'm not disappointed considering I just dropped $80 plus tax on it.
All right, well, then let's just dive right into our first topic here. This is something you've done a little bit of research on. I'm just going to let you kind of take the ball and we'll kind of see where it goes.
Okay, well, today we're going to be talking about patents, and there's basically two aspects to what we're talking about. But we're going to start off with patent trolls, they call them in general. One main company, Personal Audio, that's kind of being addressed right now because they're doing something directly with podcasting. So that really kind of put it in our line of sight. But Mark Cuban, famous owner of the Dallas Mavericks, the NBA team, has been stepping up for the against these companies that are basically what they're doing is they're buying up patents and then they are tracking down people that are utilizing these patents that were previously unenforced and then trying to sue them to make money. I believe Personal Audio, if I remember correctly, is the one right now that everything I've been reading, they haven't actually sold a product since '98. Everything they've done since then has been getting their hands on these patents and then finding people that are utilizing these patents. Sometimes it's a very loose interpretation, and then attempting to sue them for using this previously unenforced patent to try to make money. Personal Audio won a case against Apple sometime in the recent past for about $8 million. So a lot of what Mark Cuban is saying is it has to do with the fact that a lot of patents, I guess, are they just slow down the progress of technology and invention because I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Let's say that eating an orange is the analogy we'll use. Okay, and like someone files a patent for starting to peel an orange with your left thumb. And like it's a vague patent, but now when they find out that other companies are using that because they're trying to sell their way um, to eating an orange, they're going to now Personal Audio may own that patent. Now they're going to try to sue people that are companies that are using their left thumb to open the orange. Now it's just these little things. Two of the biggest things that have been on Mark Cuban's plate are reducing the scope of patentable subject matter. Um, so, like software and software design patents would become irrelevant, and then reducing the amount of time when someone can hold an exclusive patent for things. Because people like companies will just make patents and then never actually not be using them, and then other companies can't. So they wait until someone else comes up with that technology, whatever it is, the new way to eat the orange, and goes, "Oh, but you're using a thing we patented. So now you need to pay us if you expect to move forward." And usually, innovative companies, more often than not, are usually small startups. You know, some person or people have a great idea they're trying to apply, but this web of weird laws around patent and these companies that are basically trying to take advantage of the future of technology and innovation, but trying to have little bookmarks in the land of patent, are slowing things down or making it more difficult for us to truly get better, as far as technology and, growth as a society. I mean, in a lot of ways, you could say that it actually limits America's ability to, have new innovations and new strong companies and, things that would positively impact our economy. One of the things I was reading was saying that it's already in 2011, the patent trolls cost the U.S. economy an estimated 29 billion, according to Boston University researchers. Um, it's basically, I mean, that's a lot of money. We're talking in 2011. The total cost of patent troll litigation and fees since 1990 is estimated at 500 billion. Um, I don't know. It sounds crazy and sounds so very American to me for any of this stuff to even be happening.
I if I remember, because I kind of glanced through some of the things that you sent me about it, and I just kind of want to clarify: the 29 billion is not in these patent trolls getting this money from these companies. It's more in them spending millions of dollars fighting these patent trolls in the court systems, and paying their lawyers and things like that, as opposed to like these companies walking away with billions of dollars. Because I had read that in most of the cases that these patent trolls bring forth, less than 10% of them are actually found in favor of the patent trolls. Very few of them actually go. Nothing normally happens for the patent trolls, except in some cases companies will pay them just to kind of go away.
Right. Like it's not worth the fight. It's not worth the litigation.
Yeah,
Uh, it's let's just give them whatever, and then move on.
right. Um, that sounds a little bit like I remember reading there are companies, maybe people. I don't know specifically if there's people, but there's at the very least there's companies out there. Several years ago, we had completely mapped the human genome, and we're now in the process of mapping the genomes of lots of other species. Like we've done rats and chimpanzees and all kinds of things, and we're continuing to do it. And there are companies out there that have started patenting long strings of the genome, just these collections of not amino acids. That's not right. But these collections of basically how any particular genome comes together, in the hopes that 5-10 years down the road, the cure for cancer might be found within that genome, and then now they own the patent on that genome. And so I definitely I like the idea of them limiting the scope of patents. From what I remember, you can pretty much patent anything. Like, I mean, you could just have an idea and draw it up on a piece of paper, even if the technology doesn't exist to actually create the thing that you're trying to create, and get that patented. Now, obviously, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I remember that being like one of the things about patents is you can get like a patent for, a warp drive engine, even though the technology doesn't exist to actually create it.
Right. And I think the fact that it's even possible for someone to patent a certain DNA sequence and then just do it in, massive numbers, just we're going to patent a whole bunch of these and hope that someday somebody comes up with something cool that's going to be worth a lot of money. And then we can be like, we found it first. You didn't find anything first. You played the lottery. It's not even playing the lottery because you're playing the lottery on someone else's hard work at that point. Like some other company is going to do the actual research, do the actual work, spend the time, find out that it's the cure for cancer or, slows aging or cures some, genetic disease, whatever it is, does something positive that's going to be of benefit, that's going to be, reasonably profitable, possibly hugely profitable. And you didn't do any of the work, but since you filled out some paperwork once, now all of a sudden you have some right to it. And that seems like exactly the exploit that's kind of going on that needs to be changed.
Right. I I guess I guess the one thing that I'm kind of worried about is you were saying how limiting like the scope, not the scope, but there is the limiting on like software development and things like that.
Right.
And I would be a little bit afraid that by limiting, I mean, if people pour a lot of energy and money into developing some sort of software, but it's, let's say a software for some kind of program for writing games for, cellular for smartphones or something like that, and then someone else utilizes a very similar program. I don't. You had said something about the software and it being that it has to be more specific, and it made me a little worried that it would actually be worse off for some software companies. Um, but however, I did like the definitely limiting the time on patents for things.
Right. Right. Well, okay. Really quick, because copyright. One of the things is in one of the articles I was reading, they're talking about the solution: ending all software patents. Don't make them short or eliminate them. Um, and comparing, saying, don't worry about the patents, but it can still be copywritten. So, in a little quick
Okay.
thing I'm reading here, patent is an invention. A patent for an invention is the grant of a property right to the inventor issued by the Patent and Trademark Office. The term of the new patent is 20 years from the date on which the application for the patent has been filed in the United States, or in special cases, from the date an earlier related application was filed. Um, and then copyright is a form of protection provided to the authors of the original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, artistic, etc., both published and unpublished. The Copyright Act generally gives the owner of copyright the exclusive right to reproduce the copyrighted work, to prepare derivative works, to distribute copies or phonorecords, which I don't think is applicable here, of a copyrighted work, to perform the copyrighted work publicly, or to display the copyrighted work publicly. Um, so it seems like if invent a program to do whatever it is that does all the stuff that we use different programs to do to record this podcast. It's one program that does all those things, and I copyright it. If somebody else tries to come up with the same thing and it's like an identical kind of program, my copyright, um, is, I think, would cover that. Like, hey, he's stolen my full idea. That you try to make the same thing, stole my same idea. I have this copyright, and you can't have the same program. A patent, though, would prevent you from even trying to make something that was similar for 20 years. If I patented, you know, I know I wouldn't be able to do this, but the recording of a conversation via an exclusive, Skype-like system. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't use the term
Ah,
Skype when trying to
okay.
patent something.
Okay.
And I mean, 20 years. I mean, at the rate the technology goes right now,
Yeah.
2 years is almost too long,
Yeah.
you know?
I see what you're saying. It would be the equivalent to if you sit down and write code for this program that does everything for recording podcasts that we use, and you actually sit there and write all the code, and then someone else comes and writes the same exact code word for word. You could copyright the written work of the code and say, okay, they're in breach of my copyright, but the actual you couldn't patent the program itself as like a new mousetrap type thing, and then no one else could use that same kind of design that you're using because you quote unquote own the patent to that design.
Right. And I think in the modern world, we want to be leaning more towards that copywriting. I mean, because, again, 20 years. That means if I came up with okay, 20 years, and for these people that haven't actually created anything and they're just kind of feeding things into the machine in hopes that someday someone will have to use something that they put in there so that they can make money off of it.
Right. Right.
And I think one of the scariest aspects of the entire thing is that there are these companies. that are just buying up patents and then looking around and going, "Hey, who's using this thing? Who can we sue?"
Mm.
That's pretty much what they're doing. They buy up the patents and then try to find out if there's any big company they can sue.
Well, that's what these patent trolls do, right?
Right.
Okay.
Which is a ridiculous form of business. And I use the phrase so loosely because I don't think it's a form of business at all. But it's such an American idea to do something like that. It is so us. It's so us. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I feel is, the same kind of stuff that, the big bubble that popped a few years ago and sent us into this recession. It's that, I don't know, like shuffling around the cards and making it seem like you got more than you do.
Yeah,
Um,
I see what you're saying.
yeah. And I know you were talking a little bit before about that shield, the um, the new law or series of laws or bill or whatever they're trying to pass to protect people, to protect companies from these patent trolls. And basically, when you boil it down, what it is if somebody um, files, a suit against someone else over a patent and then loses, then they're responsible for the court costs.
Right. That's the Shield Act. The stuff that I found on it, which I didn't really find. You sent it to me, but I was reading through it.
Well, you found your Facebook, you found out how to click on a link. I mean,
Yeah,
you found a lot of
I
things.
found I
And
found it all. I just
but I own the patents to those, so we're gonna have to talk after this.
anyway. There's two members of Congress who are introducing legislation that would make it harder for these patent trolls. It's what they've called the bill is called the Shield Act. Basically, what it does is that if there's expenses that are involved whenever you go to court on both sides, both the plaintiff and the defendant. In the case of patent trolls, they are making an accusation, and the companies are then having to defend against that accusation. That costs money, it costs time. You have to pay your lawyers. I mean, it's just lots of it. And there's certain legal fees and costs associated with those things. Currently, under the current system, the patent trolls have they've got there's no drawback really to them bringing the suit, with the exception of that they have to pay their court fees and their lawyers. Since their entire business is kind of set up on doing this, these aren't unexpected expenditures for them. Whereas if they go to sue Apple, the Apple doesn't necessarily work. I mean, they're going to have a certain amount of money that is set aside to kind of cover kind of legal battles and things like that. But these are unexpected expenditures that these companies have to put forth. The Shield Act, what it is trying to do is, if a patent troll, or basically anybody, doesn't have to be labeled a patent troll, if you bring a suit against a company that alleges that they are, in violation of your patent, and the courts rule in favor of the defendant, the ones that you're bringing the suit against, then you are then responsible for not only your own court costs, which you've been paying, but also all of the court costs and fees and legal fees that the defendant has accrued during the court proceedings. The idea is obviously to deter patent trolls from bringing frivolous lawsuits.
And I think when you think about it just in terms of patent trolls, I think it's a great idea. Make them hesitate, make them think. I mean, I wish they weren't doing it at all, but at least it'll prevent them from going after some of those that they're not so sure they can win, in hopes that, oh, maybe we'll get away with this one. But at the same time, I think it puts people in a position where maybe they're actually being infringed upon, their actual patent, and they go to court and it could be a double whammy. Not only do they lose, their patent, whatever it is, to somebody else, but also end up paying the cost. So I mean, and without the details of all the laws, not to say that I would understand them, because it does reference it, as patent trolls. So I'm not sure if they're, I don't know, a law like that it's definitely going to have two edges to it. It's a double-edged sword, because there's going to be times when a law like that is going to step on someone who legitimately is trying to fight a case where they feel like their patent has been infringed upon. But anything that's going to slow these people down, the patent trolls, is, a step in the right direction at least.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand what you're saying in regards. I mean, to a certain extent, a lot of legal things that take place could go in favor or against people who legitimately shouldn't have it go against them. Unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of the justice system. It's meant to be as balanced as it can be, without trying to favor one side or the other, and sometimes it just it doesn't always work out. That's the way this kind of the system works. The idea is that most of like I said, a majority of the patent cases that are brought before by patent trolls, they win less than 10% of the things. And so it's such a big strain. It's kind of like the whole frivolous lawsuit thing. I remember reading years ago that they wanted to revamp how lawsuits are brought in the lower courts to kind of prevent frivolous lawsuits, like I was over at my mother's house and her screen door slammed and smacked me in the face and cut my lip open, so I'm going to sue her. And there are people out there who make their living off of suing other people.
Right.
And that's what they do. I mean, they will sue anybody that they can because there really aren't too many deterrents within the court system that prevent them or make them question, do I really want to sue them because they had a fake rock in their yard and I picked it up and tried to smash a dog in the face with it that I thought was going to attack me, but it didn't kill the dog, so now I got bit.
Right.
And I don't know if that actually ever happened, but I'm trying to come up with just an insane sort of story.
Right. But yeah, what's preventing them? What is, besides, again, like just the basic court cost on their side, what would be the deterrent? And it's kind of it's a very similar situation. So I think when it gets down to it, I mean, if there really is no deterrent for these patent trolls or frivolous lawsuits, if they're not having something like that where they do have to pay the court costs on the other side, that are going to make them hesitate from doing it. And anything that's going to hesitate someone from clogging up the legal system and all the other things that these patent trolls are doing as far as limiting progress or going back and trying to, steal money they haven't earned is pretty much what it's like. I think is going to be a good thing. But I do think we're coming up at the break in this week's podcast. So we're probably going to have to wrap it up and then come back very quickly, which will seem like it takes all weekend.
That's right. So, yeah. All right. We'll be back in a couple of days, guys. So hold on to your shorts.